something I've said a lot, like, in the Discord server and everything, but, like, what is your life when, like, blackface is the least of your problem? Hi, Carina.
Hi, Zax.
Well, okay, before we get into what this topic is, I should disclose that I live in an apartment downstairs, and I don't know what's happening upstairs. So, I
Rhinos
apologize.
loose? We don't know. Could be anything.
Building an amusement park is my hope. Uh,
Hopefully there aren't loose rhinos upstairs. That'd be bad. It's like the beginning of James and the Giant Peach.
yeah. Oh, gosh.
What an awful way to start your book.
Okay, wow. This is...
Not what we're talking about today.
Yeah, but I think it's good we started with some lightheartedness because...
Before it gets bad.
Yeah, because I don't even know if I can really call this a deep dish or if this is something unto itself, because...
Well, it's probably a deep dish because we're deep diving into the past, present, and maybe the future of today's topic.
Shane Dawson, yes.
Yay.
So, we're definitely not trying to, like, be the first on the scene.
Yeah, we're not drama YouTubers.
Well, yeah, and even if we were...
Not yet.
Not yet. Because even if we were, we are very, very late to the party.
Yeah.
It has started without us and is ending as we're arriving with cold dinner.
Yeah, we're like, hey, we made it. And everybody's like, we ate already.
Well,
we're like, oh, but we got pizza for everyone.
Can you shuffle a few scoops in your face so I don't feel too bad? But...
Everyone's like, okay, like, don't make her sad. Just, like, eat a piece so she's not crying.
Then my tears dry up back into my face. Okay.
Wipe your tears with a slice of pizza.
Yeah. Okay, so, mainly, we talked about this, and, like, I think, you know, when D'Angelo Wallace's video first broke out, I talked about it in our Discord server. Please join, link in bio.
It's really fun here.
Yeah, I brought it up, but then even I think pretty much a little bit earlier, I started bringing up how, like, the Shane drama and Jeffrey drama was coming up because I was subscribed to both of their channels at the time, and you know, more recently, like, was it Monday, yesterday, we started talking, and we wanted to give a former viewer's perspective on what's going on now, because this is really like a don't meet your heroes kind of tale in a way.
Last time we got together, we talked about how Yandere Dev tried to make his big thing, don't meet your heroes. And speaking of, that situation has changed since we made that video.
Yes.
But so much has happened since then.
I do need to watch it. I saw, now it's, because of this, it's in my YouTube recommendations, and I saw a video that said, Yandere Dev finished Osana, and I was like, oh, cool. And
that's pretty crazy. And then people are like, but is she in the game yet?
Yeah.
No.
That was what was interesting when I read, like, the description, because I didn't have time to watch, like, the full video yet, but it was like, but apparently he's withholding her until the other graphics are ready.
I get the same vibe where it's like, you know, when you're like 13 and you're writing fan fiction, and you're like, all right, I'm not gonna post the next chapter until I get 10 reviews. When you're like, all right, it's done, but it's now your job.
Okay. Well, that's enough stalling.
There's your update.
Yes, a quick review.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with you, Carina. How old were you when you first watched Shane Dawson?
I was not old enough. I was like in 7th grade, probably, maybe 8th grade, like the oldest when I started watching him. So I'm like 12, 13 probably.
Okay. And at that time, what kind of content was which Shane was this that you were watching?
So this Shane was the one who would flat iron his hair and was trying really hard to pass as a straight dude.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
So, not that there's anything wrong with being closeted. That's fine. If that's the point in your life that you're at, that's okay. But this is just like some context for Shane. But the type of content that he was making at the time was very like clickbaity thumbnails and like crazy video names, really trying to push the envelope as to like what was funny. And like looking back, I'm like, this isn't funny. This is just like being shocking for being the sake of being shocking.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I think, okay, so we're basically in like the exact same boat.
I think like the era of Shane that I met him at, so to speak, was when like he and Onision were still like doing stuff together. Because I remember like Shane had this like series, and I'm not gonna say the name of the series because it's very inappropriate what it was called.
You know,
but Onision did the opening for it,
right.
And I'm like, ooh, that aged like milk.
So much of it aged.
Yeah.
Poorly. And
terribly.
If you know the series we're talking about, I'll, because I was about to just say the full thing, and I realized, like, this is, before we even get into that, just to give you a hint about, like, if anyone is in denial about the parasocial grooming going on, it was called Viewer Blank Party. Viewer...
Fun party. Fun adult party time.
And this is, like, we're just... and I get being edgy or whatever, but it's like, it's literally just a Q&A video.
Yeah. Like, it was a Q&A video, and then, like, at the end, I'm not sure if he would do this, like, at the end of, like, every video, where it's like, okay, and, like, here's some people wearing my merch, and then he'd show pictures of these, mostly girls, most of them, like, under 15, like, they look like they're in, like, 8th grade, and, like, I'm sure we've all seen that clip on Twitter at this point of him saying something where he's like, ooh, if I Justine weren't watching, and then says something awful.
Yeah. So we sort of covered this, but, like, what did you think of the content that you were watching when, like, you were watching?
So at that time, like, the content creators that I was watching was, like, who was it? Like, Smosh was somebody who I watched religiously. Jenna Marbles in her, like, 2011 through 2012 phase, which, like, now looking back at that, it was, like, a little edgy, a little, like, ooh, this is Jenna.
Yeah.
What's happening there? That's a whole other ballpark to talk about. But, like, that was the type of content that I was watching. What was the question?
Like, just what did you think of it, like, at the time?
Yeah.
Like,
but yeah, with that particular content that I was watching, I was like, oh, I feel so cool and, like, edgy and different, because I was not cool at all in grade 7, grade 8. I felt very, like, outcasted by, like, the social groups in school. So whenever I was, like, on my own, I'm like, hee, I'm gonna watch these cool, edgy, grown-up people videos and have a giggle, because this is funny.
Yeah, like, so, like, I think that's basically my feeling. A little bit different, though, just because, I also watch Smosh, but it's interesting, like, the different comedy, because I feel like Smosh is, like, somewhere in the middle, like, Shade is on this far end of the spectrum, and then you have, like, your Rhett and Link boys on the other end of the spectrum, where it's, like, clearly
being good and wholesome.
They're fine with children watching them.
Yeah.
There's, like, and I think, because, and I think they are two perfect examples of, like, what different people think appealing to adults means.
Yeah.
So, and that, I'll just leave that there. But, I didn't know that YouTube was a thing until, like, 7th or 8th grade. And the very first 2 videos I saw, I was sleeping over at a friend's house, and she showed me what her cousin showed her, which I think that story in and of itself, a friend of a friend who knew YouTube, just shows how small it really was at the start of things. But...
And now, like, 3-year-olds on Mummy's iPad are like, can I watch Baby Shark on YouTube?
Literally my roomie's nephew.
My sister was babysitting someone who was like 2 at the time, and she came home. I'm like, how'd it go? And she's like, he just watched like Finger Family for 2 hours on the iPad, and the song kept playing.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I'm like, just not my future children. No way. You're gonna be watching Pingu and like good content.
Okay. Yeah, so like I said, the first 2 videos I ever saw, Fred on Valentine's Day, which, not gonna lie, I'm a little nostalgic for it. And say what you will about Fred being I just remember this one bit.
Just being him.
There was like, so in Fred on Valentine's Day, he gets like I forget, like, I don't know, a Zoe 101 tech deck or something like that, and he texts Judy, the love of his life, and she texts him back, and she's like, I'm not interested, P.S. your thighs jiggle really violently when you run in PE, and he's like, well, that's just mean.
Why is that me? I feel like we're like in grade 8 at like lunch break, and we're like, did you see the video last night? Hee hee, so funny.
Yeah, so like, okay, so that was the first, and then the second video of YouTube that I ever saw, and this changed my life forever, in a way, and like, it was Fred is Dead, which is like, if you just learned who Fred is,
and you're like, oh yeah, this is fun. Let me check this next video. Oh no, he's dead?
And like, it's so weird too, because like, I had seen like edgy movies on Comedy Central that were censored or whatever, but like, I'd seen Not Another Teen Movie and stuff that was clearly for adults. I'd seen some episodes of Family Guy and stuff, but seeing Fred is Dead felt like so, my brain exploded. I was like, you can't do this. You can't show people this. What?
You can't say bad words on the internet. That's illegal.
Yeah, like, what's happening? So that's the Shane that I met first. And I think, and it was weird because even at the time, I had this weird love of Shane, because, you know, at the end of every video, so you watched, like, I don't know, they range from like 5 to 10 minutes, I want to say, depending on if it was like just a short sketch or a long sketch, where you've just watched him, you know, put on some blackface, sexualize children,
do questionable things with his animals.
Yeah, you've seen all that, but then at the end of the video, he's sitting at the edge of his bed, big blue eyes, looking at you and saying like, so that was wild, right? But like, seriously, let's get real. Let's talk about your hopes and dreams. Mine is to direct films and this and that, and it's just like,
you can do anything you want if you put your heart and soul into it. And as a little person, you're like, oh my god, thank you so much, person on the internet I don't know.
And you just kind of forget anything you felt before, because now it's you and Shane right now.
Nothing it's that else. Parasocial relationship.
And I mean, honestly, I feel like people, you know, might come at me for being wrong, but like, I really feel like he kind of created that in a way, because like, you know, when he got fired from Shmeny Shrek or whatever,
I remember that video coming out. I was like, oh my god, that's so sad. I can't believe you're being censored. That's terrible.
And it's just, like, and I remember there's this YouTube channel, like, Uncle Herman, that pointed out, like, that was the first time that, like, his questionable content faced legitimate consequences. And it's like...
And it wasn't just him. Like, I think it was him, his mom, and his brother, I think.
They all got fired. And, like, because here's the thing, too. It's not just about filming at the workplace. Like, I think some people have uploaded the video, but, like, let's pretend, like, whatever, that this is, like, okay content. Mm-hmm. Like, let's just take that on the table.
Yeah, let's pretend that he's making, like, rainbow loom tutorial videos. Something completely wholesome and nice.
But, like, yeah, you're on the clock, sir. Why are you doing this?
The phone's ringing.
Why are you bringing clients in on this and making them dance on polls?
Like, you've got an Excel spreadsheet open right now. What are you doing? So,
yeah, like, but you know, again, like, just really speaking to that, it's you and Shane against the world. Yeah. And, the other thing, too, that, like, is also interesting that, like, obviously, I don't think this was intentional, but this is just kind of what happened in my case. Mm-hmm. The gross out humor, like, there would be, like, just blood and, like, male secretions and all that icky stuff just on screen. And it would always, like, be like, ugh, I hated those parts.
Yeah.
But you know what I didn't notice in the meantime? The blackface, the child group.
I'm like, I remember once we were, like, a while ago, we were talking about this same topic, and I remembered this video that it was supposed to be, like, a High School Musical parody, and, like, he put on a wig, and he's like, I'm Troy Bolton, and then he put on another wig, and blackface, and he's like, I'm Chad. And then I think, like, Gabriella was like, oh, she turns around and it's Shanae, oh my god. And, like, that was the skit, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember exactly where I was when I watched this video. And I remember, like, at the end of the video, he, like, did his outro and all of that. And then it was like, okay. And then it cut to him, like, filming, like, on, like, his phone or whatever. And he's like, hey, everybody, just wanted to point out, I'm not doing blackface because I'm racist. I'm doing it because none of my black friends wanted to be in this skit with me. I'm like, and I remember he smiled and, like, paint was on his teeth. Like, I remember, like, everything about that moment and thinking, like, this seems not okay.
You know,
something
so
about
funny.
This seems
As
bad.
You bring that up, I can remember it too. Like, see it like that, and that's something really interesting too. Like, how if you and, like, again, it's a lot of those videos are privated. I didn't save them. You don't really know the dates that each video is posted in the re-uploads you watch. Yeah. But like, definitely a lot of them happened before 2014, which was the first official blackface apology, and kind of the only apology, really, until this year. Yeah. So there was always, like, this where he would say things like, you know, like what you just said, like, none of my black friends wanted to do it. Or there was one video, I don't remember what the context of it was, but it was like he bleeped the N-word, and then afterwards he made sure to clarify, like, I just said ninja and then bleeped it.
Yeah, I remember that.
So then, like, and, like, it's kind of funny too, but, like, at the time, I remember laughing at that part.
Yeah. Like, there was this weird self-awareness where it's like, I'm self-aware enough to cover my tracks, but I'm not self-aware enough to not do it.
Yeah, like, I think, to sort of move into, like, the next thing about, like, knowing what you know now, did his content, bleh. Knowing what you know now, did his content have any impact on you?
So, the animal stuff, I'm like, I tried to block that out in my brain. I'm like, this makes me feel gross. I don't like it.
True.
The racism, which, like, you know, D'Angelo Wallace put it really well, the menstrual shows that he was putting on YouTube, that really, like, desensitized me to how bad, like, that actually is. I was like, I know this is bad. I know this isn't a nice thing to do, but I didn't understand, like, anything like the context surrounding like where it started, what the purpose of it was, how it impacts people today, and like all of that stuff. Because I'm just like, oh, like Shane does this on YouTube sometimes. It makes me feel bad, and I don't think it's okay, but it's probably not that bad. And now, like, knowing what I know today, and like, I'm baffled. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why was this the content I was consuming? This is terrible.
Yeah, like, before we move on to, like, the other stuff, just stay
because I got some stuff to say about that.
Yeah. So just to stick on racism for a bit. I think, you know, I was definitely... I don't think it even registered to me, really, like, what he was doing as blackface or as a minstrel show. In case you listening don't know, I'm actually half black, half Mexican, so just so you know. Both people who were offended by
Raise your hand if you feel personally offended by Shane Dawson's content.
Yeah. So, I didn't register. It's like, Shane is just, like, he wants to be Wendy Williams today, and Wendy Williams has brown skin.
He became.
That's on his face. Okay, like, fine.
Today he wants to be Tia and Tamara. Now he's Tia and Tamara with these awful dollar store wigs on his head and blackface.
But yeah, and like, this is one of the ones that is shown, and I think this is like a good example about just like, cause like they show like the French Prince and like Tia and Tamara, but like I don't really remember those sketches that much. But what I do remember, because I watched a lot of Degrassi, I remember that parody. And there's like several him and the Fine Brothers sports some blackface in that two-parter. We'll get to them later, I guess.
Yeah, because y'all are implemented in this too. You guys aren't innocent. I remember Millie. I remember feeling really uncomfortable with that show.
You know, it's so funny. Like, well, we'll get to that when we get that. But, like, there's so much I just didn't get at the time. But anyway, with Degrassi, one of the characters that Shane dresses as is Liberty Van Zandt. And it just really shows just how it's not just that he's acting like Liberty, because Liberty, her character, she was the bookworm. She was kind of like the wet blanket of the show. She, you know, but he makes her so repulsive, so annoying and creepy. And
like, I remember the face he made to like imitate her. Like, he pulled his lip back and his teeth were up, and just like the way he spoke, I'm like, you make me feel some type of way,
like,
and it's not the good some type of way. And
at the time watching it, it was just like, because it's barely based on anything, so like, you know, at a certain point, in the show, when you're watching the show, it really did feel like towards the end of the actor who plays Marco's contract, that all they wanted him to do were different gay arcs. Like, we don't have anyone else, it's gonna be you. So in the Degrassi parody that Shane did, he has, all the Marco guy does in the parody is just say, I'm gay, like, over and over.
Gay.
Like, that's
Did you know I'm gay? And like, I'm sure like Shane's defense for that is like, ooh, I was in the closet and I was trying to like, you know, deal with that. I'm like, okay, but like, imagine like all the other like little gay kids watching that content.
And just, I mean, like, we're not even going to talk about like the self-harm that was really belittled in all of his content, which is so weird, because that is really weird to say that like your content really like, you know, is for this generation, and like, I'm supporting you, but like, self-harm was taken so funny. It was a joke. It was hilarious to hurt yourself, I guess.
Yeah. Like, both him and Onision, who were like buddies back in the day, both of them took that angle of like, self-harm is funny. I'm like, no, it's not. It's like, not at all.
I definitely have theories on that friendship, which like I really won't talk about on here, because they're totally just in my head. They're not anything but like, I don't know. It's their friendship raises a lot of questions now.
Yeah, we're gonna Onision's maybe a topic for another day, because it'll take like several hours to get.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm strong enough for Onision.
I don't think I can stomach it.
Yeah,
it's too much sometimes.
That's real. Like, this is controversy. That's
crime.
Yeah. So
This maybe
they're different. They're on different planes right now, and
Yeah.
hopefully they stay there. Okay, so back final things on racism. I grew up like, I was like middle class, normal, but like because of where my parents like worked, I was able to go to a school that they weren't like crazy far. It's not like I needed to go like an hour, but they weren't in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
The schools that I went to. So I was among the minorities of a mostly white school, which means that most of your friends are just gonna be white, and that's fine. Yeah. But when we're all watching Shane Dawson, you kind of, I don't know how to explain this, because I don't want it to make it seem like I was like bullied within my friend group as like the black girl, but there were definitely things that were said that, had we not watched stuff like this, we wouldn't have thought it was okay. I wouldn't have thought it was okay.
Yeah.
One thing in the like montage of Change Racism is this video, and this isn't a sketch or whatever. This is him baking a cake with his girlfriend, and he flips the box and he's like,
Oh, this little black girl's hair.
Yeah, almost as jacked up as the girl in the back of the box. And it's just
this little black girl with like beautiful hair. And I'm like, Shane, what is going on in your brain?
And that was just, he's in his pajamas, like that's just like
Shane, we're not going to talk about your hair.
So he says like things like that. Black people in his videos are always either scary or, and in the case of Shauna, they're like overtly sexualized.
Yeah.
Which, that's a thing.
Yeah.
So with a lot of context. So, when my white friends would say comments to me like, oh, you're really pretty. And I do not think black girls are pretty.
Hold on. I'm like... So there's you're pretty for a black girl, but then there's whatever the hell that was. Excuse me? What?
That's like not even, there was like another, people, they would say things like that to me.
That's disgusting. Oh my god. I'm so sorry. Oh my god.
And it's not, and like, no, now that I'm older, now that I'm a real person, I'm like, that wasn't even complimentary to me.
Yeah.
That wasn't nice to anybody, because it's like, oh great, like, don't worry, you're not a monster.
Yeah, like, don't worry, we don't think you're like disgusting or anything, like, you're one of the good ones, we like you.
So it's, and like, you just sort of grow and you take some of that, and I really, and I don't even know if this is kind of the same. I don't really see a lot of people that I've seen really talk about that. Like, they mention Shauna a lot.
Yeah.
But like, I used to not really watch a lot of the vlogs. Honestly, they were kind of boring to me, and that seems to be where a lot of the real tea happened. So I missed the boat on that. But, in the few things I did see, like behind the scenes making of stuff, the way Shauna was treated as the black girl among these white friends was very similar to that to me. Like, they were always talking about how big her breasts were, which, like, I'm not here to talk about what you talk about among friends that you also put on camera. But, like, they weren't talking about anyone else's breasts, is all I'm saying.
It was just Shauna.
They always talked about, like, Shane was very, very obsessed with her different hairstyles, her weave, when she felt like it was ready to, like, she was like, yeah, like, I need to go back to the hairdresser or whatever, and he was like, haha, your ratchet weave, like, and stuff like that.
Do you know what this is? It's just modern day Sarah Bartum. This black woman is like a spectacle for these people, where they're like, look at this black lady, look at her body, look at her hair. Isn't that so weird and exotic? That's what the hell?
And it's also in the case of Shauna, it is interesting too because this is also where I go on to identify with her a little bit because she made a video, like not an apology video, sort of, where she was saying like, I'm sorry about like what happened, but like I know Shane isn't racist and he, has always been kind to me and there's no hate in his heart. And like she talks specifically about the video that I think is the most popular where they're standing in the backyard or whatever and he looks both ways, make sure no one's around.
The word of the day is...
Yeah.
Like...
And she talks about that video and she talks about how, she grew up in Jamaica and that word she didn't have the same history that's here in America. So it was amusing to her that for this white man, it was very difficult for him to say it. And she said, like, I just thought it was funny to make him say that, like watch him squirm a little bit or whatever to say this word. And she, like, all the stuff that went down, like, she thought it was just comedy, and she's like, now that I'm older, like, I don't really think it's funny anymore, but, like, I stand by the intent of comedy. And I kind of, like, I don't know, I feel like there's some sort of disconnect there, and that she might be trying to save face in some respects, but, growing up, I didn't have, like, this super, historically charged upbringing where I just was so informed and knew so much about it. Growing up, I always felt not black enough, not anything enough.
Yeah.
So, I definitely can see not seeing why this being part of this is so harmful. But, now I remember I watched Kat Black's video and she mentioned that she has met Shauna in different meet conferences or conventions or something, and she spoke with her. Yeah. And she was honest about the fact that she's basically been typecast. She can no longer get work. And I was subscribed to Shauna's YouTube channel for a bit.
Me too.
I think the only reason I unsubscribed was just because, like, lack of content.
Yeah, like, she stopped, like, she's been offline for quite a while, I think.
Yeah. Sometimes she'll, like, post something, like, every now and then, and it seems like she might be coming back, but, like, not really.
Yeah.
But, she even mentioned, like, having, like, a regular day job now at the time, whatever it is.
Yeah. And
so, like, I hope that works out for you, like, and that maybe if you want to continue acting that you can someday, but...
Yeah.
That's, like, the impact of this. People are talking about, like, how, like, Shane is ruined with his mansion and fiance and stuff. But, like, there are real people who are, like, in videos with Shane who you just do not see anymore.
Yeah. Like, I remember, like, in, like, 2013, 2014, a bunch of people, like, would frequently appear in his videos. Like, Brie, I think her name might have been Kristen, but she was, like... shorter, she was pretty thin. Both of those women have been in his videos for like several years and like suddenly just like dropped out completely. So I'm like, okay, did something happen? Like, did they just like what happened? And it's weird because Shane has done that with a couple of people. Like, he cycled through Friends. And, like, I don't know if we're going to bring this up at all, but, like, the Spooky Boy phase, like, that was a phase that I really liked. I thought that was fun. And then looking back on some things there, I'm like, oh, are we really making fun of a bridge where people have, like, jumped off of it? Are we really making jokes right now? That's not appropriate. Like, things like that of just, like, Shane not being an empath like he says he is.
Yeah. I guess, before we move on a little bit, I just, want to mention as far as the people who have been hurt by being in his content or not, like on the chair, which I watched the series, and there's like, I think there's another video that I saw of a guy, Nick something, reviewing the whole show.
Yeah.
But one of the things was it was really hard to find people in Pittsburgh who wanted to be in a Shane production. There's even a scene where there's this woman, like, they get to film at a coffee shop, and this woman's like, I've seen his videos, get him out of here. Like, no.
She's like, I don't want my name attached to this production. I don't want my business's name attached to this production, especially to Shane, because I've watched his content, and it's disgusting and it's offensive, and I want nothing to do with it.
Like, you know, like, part of me does want to talk about, like, the chair at some point, because I do have, like, some feelings about it, but, like, it's not that deep. But
it boils down to, like, Shane's like, I'm an empath, and the chair's like, where?
Exactly, yes. Because his whole thing was like, I don't understand why people are complaining when they don't have a job. And then they're like, no, they do have jobs. And he just throws a tantrum and leaves. That's his mindset, that, like, if you're getting a paycheck, you need to shut up and do whatever he wants.
A terrible way to go about work.
That was, like, literally black people's introduction to Hollywood in the first place. Yeah. Like, what are you doing?
Let's talk about, like, the very, like, I don't know, I haven't seen Not Cool, and I don't want to, but, like, the very few, like, people of color that are in that production, they're always, like, the butt of the joke. Like, the homeless man, who is a black man, who is doing, like, really gross stuff because that was in the script, and people were like, we don't want to audition for this part because it's dehumanizing, quite honestly. The one, like, South Asian character who's in that, he's the butt of the joke. It's like, it's just so consistent of Shane doing, like, really gross racist things, and him being like, oh, like, I wasn't trying to be racist. I'm like, but you were. Look.
Yeah. So, okay. So I think we've beaten racism to death.
Yeah. Racism ended.
Yes.
Oh, have you seen that TikTok where it's like, racism is illegal because, like, in, like, the Constitution or whatever, it's like, listen, good try, but no.
Oh my goodness.
Just,
no.
It's not illegal. And even if it is, it's still happening.
There's very little TikTok that I'm on the forefront of. Okay,
TikTok was a mistake.
Let's move on to child grooming in his content. How did that have an impact on you as a viewer? Oh boy.
So, it always made me very uncomfy. Like, let's use his cousin as an example. Mm-hmm. I'm that age. Not now. I'm not 12 right now. But, like, at the time of consuming that content, that's the age that I was at. Mm-hmm. And so I watched, I'm not going to say the cousin's name because I don't want her to, like, because people are talking about her a lot and they're like, oh, I'm like, I know her name, but I won't say it. So his cousin, 12 at the time, being in, like, skits or vlogs where, again, like, the butt of the joke was, like, sexualizing her, and I'm like, that's not a joke, though. It's not funny, first of all, and it's a real thing that happens. And as we've seen, like, on Twitter and in, like, YouTube comments, people have said that, like, because of my exposure to this at such a young age, I thought that this was funny, and I thought that this was okay, and I then went on to be victimized, and it's a thing that I live with now. Like, there are very real life consequences to Shane's older content, and I don't know if, like, he realizes that now or realized that then, but, like, it's big, and, like, I don't know how much I want to get into this, but, like, I've been through stuff in my life, like, as a young person, not, like, 12, 13, but, like, 15, 16, 17, where I have been in situations where I'm like, oh, hey, this isn't okay. And I'm thinking back, I'm like, is that just because, like, it happened? Or did, like, my exposure to this have something to my thinking going into situations like that? Did I think that it was okay because at such a young age I was like, oh, hee hee, funny joke? Like, I don't know. And now that's, like, a thing that I have to live with.
Yeah. No, I mean, I don't have, like, accounts like that, experiences like that exactly. But just seeing how you know, when you're young, it's very easy to be like, I can play with the big kids
Mm-hmm.
and I can do all this stuff. And it is the adult's job, whether, you know, excuse me, Pretty Little Liars, it doesn't matter what she's saying to you. You need to be the adult and say, oh, well, actually,
I'm an adult, you're
even
not.
if you don't like it, the answer can just be no, and we can just move along.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, and it's weird because, like, in his videos, like, there's sketches where, like, he has, like, kids pretending to, like, dance in a certain way and doing all sorts of things like that, where, like, it gives you the idea, like, where you just sort of internalize that and you just, it definitely affects your self-esteem, I think, because it makes you want, like, where's my Shane Dawson to make me do those things?
Yeah, where's, like, my oodles of attention that this person's getting because I'm a awkward and, like, lonely 13-year-old.
Yeah, and, like, there's definitely just, like, the, like, low-key, like, just cult mentality, because, like, you know, we talked about at the beginning, you know, at the end of his videos, he sits with you, it's just you and Shane, and he's like, look, you're weird, I'm weird too, but, like, we're in this together.
Yeah.
And so then at a certain point, like, you're basically just living for Shane. So, and, like, if you can find someone who spits the same game, then, like, hook, line, and sinker, you're done.
Yeah. like I want to talk quickly on, like, again, like, I'm sure everybody at this point has seen the Twitter thread or has seen, like, somebody's video on this, but, like, when he was in the Omegle chat with his mom present, Mama Dawson, what were you thinking? Allowing this to go on, and him, like, being in a chat room with someone who's obviously very young, and as a joke, quote unquote, asking her to, like, oh, like, oh, twerk. The same thing that Austin Jones was doing, who, if you don't know, is serving a 10-year prison sentence for something I won't say because it's your channel, but, like, really bad stuff. I'm like, Shane, this is crimes that we're doing. This is illegal that we're doing. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's...
And so publicly, too. Like, something that I'm not gonna wrap my head around is, like, why did this go on for so long?
It's just, you know, the reflex to immediately abuse a power dynamic is very weird because, like, you know, with, like, in the cases of, like, Romeo Lacoste, Austin Jones, like, these are people who, like, kept their weird desires for fans, you know, hidden. Like, but he made videos about it, and, like, we were all cool with it. We were all, like, it was good. We all thought, it was
oh,
great.
we're all so cool because we watch Shane and we think these jokes are funny, but we really didn't think they were funny, but we were too uncomfortable to say that we were uncomfortable. We're like, oh, we don't like this, but haha, funny, right? Funny joke.
And it is weird because, like, there's, like, so, like, I remember even before the, like, real tea broke out again, all this stuff this year, I went back to, like, watch some of the old Shane videos that weren't privated or whatever that I remembered really liking, and I tried to watch them now, and I just, like, did not enjoy them. Like, just sitting there, straight face, had to just click off because I'm like, this is not what I recalled. And, you know, and it's because, like, creators change, like, their fan base grows up, but, like, it's very messy. But let's segue into the present a little bit. Was there any of the information new to you? Like, that came out recently?
It wasn't new where I was like, oh my god, I had no idea this was happening, because every clip that I've seen, I remember it when it came out. Like, I remember, like, the Hey Millie stuff. I remember the, like, the sketches. I remember the vlogs. So I'm like, it was, and they weren't like he had taken them off of his channel and, like, somebody had, like, dug them up and reposted them. They were still on his channel. So these were
Yeah.
like in plain sight for years, still monetized, so he was still making money off of them. So
Yeah.
I'm like it was like, I say like, oh, this unlocked a memory, but like it did. I'm like, oh my god, I remember this. I remember this, and I remember being weirded out, but also being okay with it.
Hey Millie was news to me. I recognized the puppet, sort of, but I didn't really recall seeing anything, like watching Millie do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And I do remember, like, a few years back, or whenever this was, whenever Kids React started, I remembered seeing, hey, it's Millie in the side tab. And this is, I say a couple years, I think this was like back in like whenever Kids React started, so
Yeah.
long ago. But I remember like clicking on a Millie video and seeing it was like some weird like life advice thing, and I just like didn't get it. Like, and I was just like, well, I don't need any of this. Goodbye, Millie.
See ya.
I missed. I mean, it's good. It's not like, oh man, rats, I should have gone in there. But
Yeah.
when I saw that now, I was like, what? That was honestly, the new things, like seeing Shane be mean and talk about his black friend in passing like she's an idiot who can't type.
Yeah.
Was
I'm
like,
Shane.
oh. But this, and like, all the animal stuff was like, okay, like, I've seen, like, memes or whatever about, like, people who let their cats kiss them on the mouth or whatever, but, like...
And then everybody's like, oh, calm down, Shane Dawson.
That was frightening. That was not
There's
safe.
a video of him, like he and Jenna did a collab, and, like, he's, like, Peach is in his lap, and I'm like, not Jenna Marbles' dogs. Shane.
No, none of that. But like, so it all surprised me. But the Hey Millie stuff was jarring, especially because, like, it's been said in videos, but just like quick, if for some reason this is your first little
deep dive into this topic.
It's an 8-year-old puppet,
Yeah.
and there's this clip, and this isn't like there's 2 clips that I've seen of Hey Millie. One is where, it's clearly a filmed sketch. She's sitting with Shane Dawson in hood face, I guess we'll say.
Like the character's name, like, I remember all of the characters. Like, SDZ was the character name.
Yeah.
Who was
but
supposed to be like Eminem.
Yeah, so he was that whole deal. And Millie's sitting there, and it quickly gets wildly inappropriate, and Millie is voiced by the Fine Brothers.
Yeah.
But then that's creepy. But then there's this other clip where it's like behind the scenes of the filming of it. And some reason they thought it was a good idea for 8-year-old puppet girl to pretend to like entice Shane, and he's just laughing
and like engaging with it too.
Immediately, and then again, bringing it back to that Omegle thing, he immediately brings it back to like abusing the power dynamic, even in this fictional fake scenario. But like, and it was just so weird because like I was this age today when I saw that clip for the first time ever, and I was so horrified. I was like, like people always like joke like, oh, what are you kids watching? Like, you're like filling your mind with garbage, but like literally you're filling your mind with like damaging acid waste. Like
toxic, brain melting,
it was
life-changing waste.
I was watching it with Bob, and we had to pause it so many times because I was so like, what is happening? Like, when the Shane drama, and I'm gonna be really real. I've said, I was a former fan, like his TanaCon videos, his Shane, Jake Paul, Jeffree Star again. Everyone had their criticism, and I was like, look, you know what? Shane is just doing his thing. I think, but before the Discord server went like public, I was just like talking about the conspiracy thing, and I was like, maybe Chuck E. Cheese really is giving people leftover pizza, and why not? They have so much to give.
Yeah.
So like,
they're really generous.
I was ready to go down with this ship of Shane. But then the more, and like I was like, he apologized for the blackface, right? Like,
we're like, we can accept this, right?
And like, you know, D'Angelo pointed out how like basically he gaslit everybody with the cat thing, and I remember when it came out, I remember telling Bob about it, and I was like, look, people are being so mean to Shane, and they're talking about what he did with his cat, but like, it was just him being, he talked about how he doesn't like that humor anymore, and he wouldn't do it now.
Yeah,
so,
he was
like,
just being funny.
Wake up, sheeple.
Yeah, don't be so sensitive, you snowflake.
But then you see these montages, and I'm like, whoa, wait. No, people are bringing up really valid criticisms.
We're like, we can't defend this anymore.
Whoa. So, like, okay. Like, so, to answer the original question, how surprised was I? Very surprised. Okay, next question. How fair is it to hold current Shane responsible for past Shane?
Shane was a grown-up when he was making this content when he first started. I think I was like me as a 22-year-old person, I think Shane was the same age when he started making content. I don't know if like maybe it's just because of like the political climate that we're currently in, or like my education or my current field of study or whatever it is. But I, as a 22-year-old, know that all of that stuff that Shane was doing was bad and is bad and was never funny and never okay. So I'm like, okay, well, like, we, like, people say, they're like, oh, it was a different time back in, like, 2011. Yes and no.
Yeah.
Like, D'Angelo Wallace brought this up, and the Sad Boys brought this up. Let's take, like, so I'm sure everybody knows this now with, like, Black Lives Matter and, like, everything that's going on there. A lot of Netflix shows have, so, like, not, like, Netflix originals, but, like, shows on Netflix, so, like, Community, The Office, Always Sunny, they've had episodes pulled because they involve blackface. And it's been pointed out a couple of times that, like, the blackface in those episodes is, like, and I'm trying to, like, say this carefully so I don't say something bad, but, like, it's being used in a way to, like, not make fun of black folks, but to make fun of the white people who are using blackface, whether or not they're aware of what they're doing.
Yeah, I think the best way I would describe it is that, like, I think I was talking with Bob about this, and he said, like, you know, in those sketches or shows, whatever, where it's blackface done right, quote unquote, is, you know, the racist is very clearly the butt of the joke, and also, like, they don't get to say the punchline. It's the people who are offended are like, I'm offended. What are you doing? You're
dumb. And then everybody goes, haha, funny, that person's so dumb.
The person doesn't just arrive and we're like, ha ha ha. It's the person arrives and someone looks shook, and then we laugh.
Yeah, we're like, hee hee, you're so socially unaware and so ignorant to the past.
Yeah.
Whereas Shane was like, here's blackface, isn't it funny?
But then, like, you know, and if we're going to talk about, but, like, you know, and that's, like, a lot of where, you know, the forgiveness can definitely end, you know. This is something I've said a lot, like, in the Discord server and everything, but, like, what is your life when, like, blackface is the least of your problems?
Yeah.
Like, let's be real. And, like, if... So, yeah. Oh like, my god, that's such a wild thing to say. That's just such a wild sentence to say. But, like, yeah, blackface is genuinely the least of his problems. But, like, Frenching your cats has never been cool. Like, we've never been alright with that.
We've never been like, oh, you did this to a dog, that's funny. Like,
and, like,
how do you have 3 controversies at once?
Like, oh my gosh, that's wild.
Like, not just one. If it was just the blackface, I'd be like, that's terrible. if it was just like the child groomy jokes, I'd be like, that's terrible. If it was just the animals, I'd be like, that's terrible. But it's all three. I'm like, what? How did you get to this point?
It's, yeah, with most sorts of things, like, Jeffrey is a racist and he lies a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just kind of what it is. Like, all of his controversies, you could just boil them down to those two things. Yeah. But in Shane's case, they're such wildly different issues.
And just so outrageous. Like, not even just, like, the normal racism. Not just the normal, you're doing weird stuff with younger people.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so...
And, like, that sounds like a bad sentence. To clarify, there is no normal any of that, because it's not normal.
No, I mean, when you're talking about this, like, I think we're safe given the context of this conversation.
Yeah. Like, it's not just, like, Shane said the N-word, and, like, some DMs of him saying it got leaked, and he's like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Like, Shane, we know you've said the N-word. We've heard you say it. But then you did all this other stuff.
There's so much evidence stacked for each individual controversy. It's not, okay. Let's move on to the future.
Let's take a breather.
Let's take a breather. So, we've ranted a lot about all of this. And sort of come to some sort of point. Is there anything, knowing what we all know now, that we as viewers can do to be better? Not that we're malicious in any way, but like, maybe as viewers, there's something that we could have done to avoid where we are now. Do you think there's anything?
Like, I don't know, because a lot of us were just so young when this all started. Yeah. And, like, I don't know if it's, like, appropriate to say we didn't know better. But, like, I don't know, like, do you feel that you, as a 13, 12-year-old, knew better? Because I'm not sure if I did.
Honestly, like, I don't think until last year I knew anything.
Yeah.
But, like...
Because, like, I'm trying to think of, like... Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, oh, no, just, like... But, when you take... It's... Right now, we take in whatever we watch, and the responsibility is of the person who's presenting it. He got behind the camera, and he said all this stuff, he did all these things.
He filmed it, he edited it, he watched it upload.
And, like, if you have a thought that's wrong, or, like, you're not sure about, but, like, someone with a platform as large as his confirms it, then it's like, oh, okay, so this is right.
Yeah.
Because
it affected my sense of humor as a kid, and I'm appalled that became my sense of humor for a hot minute. But I'm like, did I know better? I should have, but I don't know if I did.
And and it's hard, especially when you're young. It's just a weird time in your life because, like, even, we're all kind of, we're all like Shane a little bit in that, when people tell you you're wrong, you get defensive.
Yeah.
That's just, no one wants to be wrong, especially when you're young and you're so desperate to prove that you're independent and right.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really know. The only advice I could give a younger me would just be to, like, really be aware about how what you're watching makes you feel.
Yeah.
Because, like,
trust your gut.
Like I talked about, it made me feel like me being black was funny.
Mm-hmm.
When it's not funny, it just is. It's not anything. So, there's even times when I watch the video and, like, the passing thought was like, I kind of feel like this would be better if I was white. Like, I would enjoy this content maybe more if I was white. And, like, that's should have been something where I'm like, I could just not watch.
Yeah.
I could just move along.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think also and again, it's just so hard because as a viewer, there's really no way to really be that honestly perspective with yourself.
Yeah.
But, nobody owes anybody anything.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it feels like it's just you and Shane against the world, he doesn't need you. He doesn't care about you.
Yeah.
Like, not in a malicious way, but like Logan Paul, I don't know who all the kids are standing, but like, they don't know you. Unless you made it known to them that you stand them, they don't know you.
They have no idea who you are. They're not going to know who you are. All they care about is your clicks and your watch time.
So there's definitely, people talk about like cancel culture. And there's the arguments of like, we need to take away their platform and all this stuff. And it's like, that's definitely counterproductive because, one, it's not going to work.
Right.
But also, like, you can spin this into a positive. He doesn't... Shane, if Shane doesn't loses his platform, he becomes a cautionary tale of like this tragic hero who flew too close to the sun or something.
Yeah.
And got burned. But like, if he like really genuinely takes time to change himself, to work on a new type of content and focus on just being better, acknowledges it, like, I don't know, this is one thing. I watched the Taking Accountability apology video today.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he was sincere and as genuine as he possibly could have been for all the racism stuff. He didn't really address
there's so
any
much
of the
he didn't address.
My opinion on that, it's like, I don't think anyone will ever make the perfect apology. Because I saw people have problems with Jenna Marbles' apology. And I was like, man, you really can't win.
Yeah. Well, like, what were the issues that they had with hers? Because I remember watching it and just, like, being very upset because I'm like, Jenna, no, don't go. We need you.
Well, people were, a very legitimate point that people brought up that I, like, didn't really think about because I was just like, well, she's got to do what she's got to do.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think this was Cat Black and possibly another YouTuber, but it's definitely harmful that Jenna left the platform.
Yeah.
Because it creates this narrative like she got bullied off of YouTube by these sensitive people who are overreacting and all that. So that doesn't really help, because people want to watch more Jenna.
Yeah.
So now it's like, I don't care if she was racist. Bring her back. I want to see Marbles. So that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's I guess. But, I think people commended her because she showed the clips in, like, basically their entirety and just said there are no excuses, none of that. But people's main critique was just, like, that she left and just how that just kind of hurts any good that it could have done.
Yeah.
And, with Shane's... I mean, unless we're really going to sit through a, 15-hour apology video, there's no way he's going to be able to apologize for it all.
But is this... I'm always somebody who is like, we should forgive. We should, we should be able to... I really value forgiveness. But I don't know if this is something that is forgivable. Like, if it was one thing and Shane genuinely showed some growth, I'd be like, we'll see. But because it's just so much that's been going on for so long, I don't know if he should or could come back to business as usual. And he already kind of has, because I don't know if this is recent or how recent it is, but he recently restocked his merch. So I'm like, how sorry are you? Because he said in his apology, he's like, I should lose everything because of what I did. But I'm like, okay, but before you made this apology, you launched a restock for your and Jeffree Star's collab makeup project, and you just restocked your merchandise. So, how truthful is that statement?
And I don't know. I'm no expert, and I made it very clear that I have many problems with Shane and his content as of late and all that. But I will say, I think it could. I don't know what contracts were signed between him and Jeffrey when he signed for Killer Merge.
Right.
And Jeffrey does not care about the times. He will make
Jeffrey's
that money.
just like, he's launching a new palette and collection, like, within the month. So we know that he doesn't care.
Yeah, so, like, if they had planned on, I don't know, August 12th or whatever, he's going to restock his merch or whatever date it was, I don't see why he would put the stop on that.
Well, like, I feel like you should at least be, like, transparent about that. Like, hey, listen, before this all started, this was going to happen. Just, like, I don't know. I don't know if that's, like, on you to do that.
I think that's a totally valid take on it. A lot of people were, like, up in arms about that. And it's, like, interesting to me, too, because it's, like, I mean, we could just not buy it and it could just sit on a shelf. Mm-hmm. If it's out there, it's out there. And that's just, my opinion. I'm not that bothered. But as far as forgiveness, it does seem that in his content, in a way, he's definitely deviated from, like, the 3 controversies surrounding him. He doesn't do inappropriate things with children, animals, and people of color. Mm-hmm. To, my knowledge. Could be wrong, I guess. So his content was changing. At the same time, there's the criticism that, like, all his content is PR for problematic racist people. So that would definitely need to change.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's not even about forgiveness so much, because he even said in his video that you have permission to not accept his apology. Mm-hmm. And that's totally fair and valid, and I think but I do see the same pattern in all his videos, including this current Taking Accountability video, mm-hmm. which to date is the last thing he's posted on his channel.
Yeah.
Where it's not so much, he does seem sorry. He does seem frustrated. He does seem like he doesn't know what to do. But he needs to, at this point, he needs to make a decision. Are you going to continue on YouTube? Are you going to do more things behind the scenes? Are you going to continue to be a face? And you need to just accept at this point that there are always going to be people who are going to remember this about you. Yeah. And they are always going to be talking about it, and it's never going to stop because there's just too much.
Right.
Nobody, like...
We can't forget this.
Your stands are going to continue to fight them, and it doesn't matter what you say, they're going to do it. These are just things that honestly...
These are things that are inevitable.
Your actions are bigger than you now. Yeah. You're not just Shane Lee.
You're not YouTube's grandpa anymore.
I'm pretty sure he's probably going to try to make a documentary about this, and
The Wonderful Life of Shane Dawson. The Secret Life of Shane Dawson.
I'm genuinely curious. Like, I'm currently not following him on anything, but it's going to be on trending anyway, so it doesn't really matter if you unsub.
Right.
But, yeah,
I think, like, to just go back to what can we, as viewers, do better. Mm-hmm. I think, like... Again, a lot of this happened when we were young, and we didn't know better on the internet. So, like, I'm saying on the internet, because maybe IRL we did know better, but on the internet, we're like, hee, we're dumb. But, like, we've grown up, and we've since known better. So moving forward, we need to be more aware of the content that we're consuming and the content that other people are consuming. And we need to watch out for these things that seem really questionable and seem really gross and bad. And we need to like, I don't know, what can we do about it? Like, we can't just, like, make a hashtag on Twitter and be like, oh, X YouTuber is canceled, or X YouTuber is over party. Like, is that enough now?
I think, honestly, yeah, you just need, like we said before, you just need to trust your gut and do it.
Think critically.
And really, it's so hard because you just like what you like and you can't help it, but you need to try harder.
And you're not going to listen when other people are like, this is bad, especially if you're young. Because if some older person was like, hey, Carina, can you stop watching Shane Dawson? His stuff is bad. You know damn well I would have kept watching him. Because that's how your brain works when you're a kid. You're like, I'm going to do it anyways.
Like, the last thing I'll say, like, I go back and forth on this because, like, there's deplatforming, and right now, like, I'm so frustrated and hurt by all of Shane's actions.
Yeah.
But if he does release something new and it hits trending, am I going to watch it? I genuinely don't know. I'm not going to make a promise, like, I will never watch any of his content again because, like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But Shane seriously needs to change his content. He needs to rebrand. He needs to show that if he's not racist, I need to see him have a positive relationship with people of color. And I'm not saying just get some black person to just be there and be like, oh yeah, Shane loves me, bye, never to be seen again. I need, like, you not even to befriend them. I need you to just find somebody and tell their story. Like you do with Jeffrey. Like, why don't you, I mean, I don't know who he could, because, like, I don't know who would really, like, want to sit
I
down
don't know
with him
if
right
there's
now.
like any black YouTuber who at this point would want to work with Shane Dawson. Because we know D'Angelo Wallace probably doesn't want to work with him. We know Cat Black probably doesn't want to work with him.
Yeah, I don't know who could, but I'm sure there's somebody. He needs to find someone without a platform who would, like, help raise their voice. That's what I think he could do. That's safe, harmless, nice, and, like, just a really quick, just to delve into the past, like, really think about the people who he's given, like, shout out boost to on his channel. Like, I remember there are videos where he found this young girl, this young white girl who liked to sing and do covers, and I'm not taking anything away from her talent.
Yeah.
But, like, he did look for nobodies, and he gave them, and he gave different YouTubers Sunday spots on his channel to give them an audience. He likes to help underdogs, but he doesn't help people of color. He just doesn't. And so it's not that they're not around. It's not that they don't exist. So he needs to, like, really look at that, and he needs to figure out why that's the case. And he really just, he needs to, and I mean, that's the thing too, like, we don't need to hold his hand and tell him what he needs to do. He's a grown man.
Yeah.
He needs to, like, figure it out, do better, and see what happens.
Yeah. Or just, like, if you don't want to go through the effort of, like, rebranding and, like, finding, like, whatever, then just go offline. Don't just live your life now. If you've been smart with your money, you should be fine in your big mansion. You have Ryland. You have, like, people in your circle still.
I think that's one thing that I think is really tough, too. Like, you know, we talked about people who lost their career. Like, I don't know. I think Ryland's lost a few subs. I don't think he's hurting that badly. But it is his career and Morgan's career. And Morgan is so sweet.
Yeah.
Their careers are linked with Shane because, like, he's basically, like, part of why they have channels.
Yeah.
So, you know, that just is what it is. But he really, as going back to Jenny Craig, he really doesn't seem to think about how what he wants to put online affects the people around him. Not, obviously, how would he know that he would find a man and a sister to help with a channel? But, like, he knew at some point he wanted a family, and he, I guess, didn't care that this was, like, who they would grow up knowing, kind of thing. Well, we have rambled for
quite a while.
Yeah, we've been talking for a long time, and at the end of, I think the real point of this, like the point of like everyone's videos that you're watching is like there's really no right answer here.
Yeah.
This is just a really messy, icky situation, but hopefully you enjoyed hearing the perspective of people who grew up watching Shane, and maybe you were one too, and this helped put some of your feelings to words.
Mm-hmm.
And like, seriously, join our Discord server. We have a channel, Drama Dish, where you could just talk about all this stuff with us, and we could like answer you right then.
Yeah. And if you want to do better yourself, especially in these trying times, there's lots to read, there's lots to watch. Keep yourself educated.
I honestly thought you were about to say to watch more of these videos, and
You
I was
could-
like, ew, that's a bad taste.
Subscribe to our channel. No. No, we brought up a lot of content creators today, so.
And yeah, always be comfortable saying what you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And it's never wrong how you feel. So on that note, thank you guys so much for listening and just
It was a
giving
hard
us
one.
this. Thank you for giving us this space to just talk and feel. We all felt together.
And I hope we're feeling okay now.
Yeah.
Please do some self-care tonight.
Yeah, definitely. So remember to comment, like, and subscribe because we all need friends. Okay, bye.
Bye.